Hello, hello. Hey. Hello.
Hey, hey.
Nice. Everything worked out smoothly. Except for the waiting room, where it was kind of weird because we were just like a few seconds into like another song that wasn't like a nice stuff. I was like, oh,
You're like, oh, copyright.
oh. Anyway. So, hey guys, how's it going? My name is Justin.
Mark.
And you're watching and or listening to episode 389 of DangIT Prodcast. Welcome back, everyone. This past week has been quite the past week, actually. We finally had the Game Awards. Whatchamacallit, like, legitimately Halo Infinite came out.
And I've been enjoying it thoroughly.
The campaign, and a little bit of something that we'll probably talk about a little later on that Mark added in there. But when we get there, we'll get there for sure. So
very concerning topic, but definitely something that needs to be brought up.
Yeah, for sure. So I know I said all that stuff, but I just wanted to let everyone know that yes, I finally caught up with Hawkeye, so there's no issues whatsoever on my end.
Meanwhile, I seem to watch the latest episode.
Oh, well, I guess the cycle continues then.
Yep.
It's okay. If anything, episode 3, from what I remember, had a lot to it that required some like pretty interesting background context for it, as far as just knowing a little bit more about like the whole, not just MCU, but just simply just the Marvel universe that we know as it is, on media. So
they're making big moves.
They are, because what was it? Netflix had like their own show, like a Marvel show. Daredevil, amongst like a couple other things as well, but Daredevil. But yeah, Daredevil was like one of them for sure.
It was their most popular one by far.
Yeah, and should we also mention Punisher as well?
Punisher and Daredevil, I think, were the big hits. Luke Cage was also really good. Iron Fist season 2 was better than 1, and Jessica Jones was there for forever.
Yeah, so I mean, the reason that we kind of bring it up is the fact that episode 3, spoiler alert, has tie-ins with at least Punisher for now.
Well, with the Daredevil.
Is it Daredevil, or because I know that like in Punisher,
King
like
he had Daredevil.
But well, wait, hold on. Wasn't Punisher like for that one he had to actually like physically scrap with Kingpin at that time?
I think he made a brief appearance on Daredevil before getting his own show, but it was still on Daredevil.
Huh. Okay. All right, because I don't know which one happened first, because I just know that there was like huge like thing about like Kingpin fighting one of the dudes. It was either Daredevil or was Punisher himself, who I guess was played by one of those dudes from Walking Dead from like way back when, seasons 1 and 2.
Like the person who plays the Punisher is John Berthal.
But in any case, the whole thing is that Kingpin is indirectly like announced or revealed in one of the Hawkeye episodes, episode 3, and it was very subtle. It was one of those things where like if you didn't know, like me, you wouldn't even pay any mind to it. But then when you look into
it, to be fair, it went over my head too.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things where like they want to give you the nod that it's there, but at the same time, it's not important for the main context of the Hawkeye story that they're telling. So if you miss it, then it's no big deal. It might pop up later as like secret end credits, if you will, for the end of the show, kind of like what was it, Falcon Winter Soldier kind of did. But yeah, it's just a very slight thing, and I think for episode 3, aside from just kind of getting like used to this new dynamic with Hawkeye with a new partner in crime, aside from that was just kind of like one of the things that happened. Oh, also shout outs to the Pym Arrow.
Oh yeah, the Pym Arrow.
That was, I love when, one, superheroes like do combination attacks, and two, when they make references to each other.
Oh, absolutely.
It's great. But just to not spoil it for you, Mark, episode 4 gets pretty intense, because it's another one that for sure kind of like blends things together within the MCU. So Yeah,
Oh, I imagine they were given the hint that it's gonna get real heavy.
yeah. So, and also the fact is that like Hawkeye has this persona to himself throughout the entirety of the MCU that really gets broken down throughout the episodes, and I think it's great. Like Hawkeye obviously has always had a family since the beginning, and for the most part, like a lot of this stuff was covert, and then it started to mix into the Avengers, where he started to get like a public identity for himself. But at the same time, he still has these skills that were meant specifically for covert operations. So, and then the fact is that they're linking in the 5-year gap in which he was Ronin, and then putting it into the Hawkeye series, and just kind of putting that that topic into like the universe there.
Yeah, the consequences that come with what he did when he was Ronin.
Yeah, and the fact is that, and I guess I'm just kind of gushing about certain things that I really like, aside from like the cool retractable sword, but also just simply
that sword is pretty fucking tight.
Yeah. Clint the Family Man like is a really sad story arc, let me tell you.
It really is.
This man, all he wants to do for the rest of his life is just spend time with his family. And now he's just kind of roped in with another person who absolutely like loves and is inspired by him, even though he is not at all like a role model that like people like claim him to be. At least not in his eye, for sure.
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely a different take. I think it's kind of a mixture of like action, like a little bit of some, well, serious like moral like to the story type of things, but also just like a good bit of comedy in the middle, almost to the point where it feels kind of like it's one of the driving, like the bigger driving forces of the entire like show.
You mean like the LARPing?
The LARPing was, yeah, well, not just the LARPing, but I just think that maybe I think it has to do with Kate specifically, because she is kind of serious in what she's trying to do, but she's also very lighthearted and just I guess to put it like simply, is just like super overconfident to the point where she takes different approaches like with strides, while Hawkeye kind of questions that still.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
It's really, seeing these two together creates like this weird juxtaposition of like what seems like two equal forces, but like with different approaches in what they do. They're pretty much just two different archers.
Oh yeah, I mean, like in the comics, it's I mean, like, she was like, Hawkeye taught her, like she became the next Hawkeye.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's gonna this is what's gonna come down to it. But right now, she's still relatively learning, and I think the show does a pretty decent job in showing that even though she's really good at what she's doing right now, she still has like a lot to learn, even if her methods kind of like help like or push things along anyway. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was just simply the fact of like the dog being there. What's the dog's actual name?
I think his actual name is supposed to be Lucky.
Lucky? Okay. Because
classic dog name, Lucky.
Yeah. Because right now, dog's not doing anything right now. I mean, he could be a cool mascot, but like his appearance, like what he's been doing so far, honestly, no, his first impression, like first episode, he really just felt like he just dropped out of a Disney like movie. He's like a very like mysterious dog that just seems to know where to be at the right place, the right time. And then for
very
the
mysterious one-eyed dog.
And then for the next 2 episodes, he's just vibing, like he's not even involved, like
he's just
directly.
chilling.
So I mean, it's cool that they take nods at like the original works and like in context to like what makes Hawkeye throughout. But I'm just really curious if they'll do anything more with that dog, or it's just simply a dog that just exists.
That's usually what it is.
So I'm curious to like. I'm just curious, like, as to how far they wanted to develop that. But if they don't, then it's fine. It'll just be part of the review of such that like this is a character that is there. Simply, exists, does not have like too much profound effects to the story except for like the beginning, and that's it. I will say though that I do like the tracksuits for just being like goofy.
Correct, Mafia?
The tracksuit mafia,
Kind of on the nose.
it really is on the nose. I think it's supposed to be like that. Like whether it's like, I mean, obviously Maya kind of runs that entire operation at that point, and she's the actual person that to be feared, aside from like our other dude. Oh, this also happened like episode 3 too. I was, I couldn't help but think about the fact that like in like that entire sequence, like in like the what is it called? Just like where they were being kept, that Hawkeye took care of like all the goons, and Kate was beating on this one dude.
Yep.
I felt so bad for him.
I mean, he knows that he's the veteran here. He's gonna have to pull his weight.
Yeah. And I also like that he does have kind of like an hindrance to himself, and that's just simply his hearing aids. It's not really
From all
meant
the
to.
fucking explosions he's heard.
I mean, it's understandable. It comes with age too, so I appreciate them like representing him like over time like this. Um,
They even went like they said it's like what happened to your hearing? It just shows every loud ass fight he's ever been in. He said, it just happened.
that I was gonna say, so up to the very point of Endgame, like he was really losing that stuff, but he was just hanging in there for just a little bit.
His hearing was hanging in there, but by a thread. Then eventually just went pop.
He only heard so much clarity up to the point where T'Challa called out his name. And you know what? I'm totally okay with that. Such a growth. I'm Clint. I don't care. Clint,
I don't.
give it to me. But
Quite literally like having a good old time. Live action role playing.
mhm. I think also to kind of pair up with like his lack of like hearing, and now pitting him against like an antagonist such as Maya, who's had this like problem since she was born, but now doesn't have an issue with it whatsoever, and she's actually giving him this lecture that maybe you're being a little too reliant on that kind of stuff. Whether that develops into something, it doesn't really matter, but it really is one of those things where it's a place where Clint can actually grow in that case. But if they don't, again, I guess it's fine. It's just really interesting to kind of show that level of representation, but also make it something that's kind of impactful in like the fighting sequences here and there. Like, oh, actually, that's an episode 4. I can't really talk about that. But yeah, it's not. I would say that like the lack of hearing is not like a big thing like so far in Hawkeye, but it's really interesting. It really, I guess, maybe it's not meant to like point towards some type of like moral of the story type of thing, but just the times where it shows for Hawkeye specifically that he does like lack that hearing, and how he has to like interact with the world in a whole new way. I forget this. Yeah, I think this was. No, this was also that episode, or was it? I'm getting mixed up. I just know that like he had a phone call with like one of his kids, didn't have hearing aids. Kate was thankfully there to help translate, somewhat, but that was real rough. That was another like Clint the Family Guy moment.
I know.
It's like, man, dude, this I feel so bad.
Man just want to go home with his kids. Just wants to go home, spend some time with the kids. That's all he wants to do.
And then, like his best friend literally sacrificed like herself so he can have that too.
I know, it was really him or her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like she chose herself because once they fixed the snap, all his family would be back, but she would still not have anything.
I mean, I guess with the release of like Black Widow, that's kind of been like put up there, like the question, because she does have family, just not one that you would be able to like link it back to.
Not blood.
I guess not by blood. Yeah, no, because like it's her. Then of course like I'm sorry, I totally do not remember like the family, like the foster family's names, but they're there and they're taking care of all the other like ex Black Widows. And then of course there's Yelena. She's like who of course was revealed in the movie to be like the closest thing to a sister to Natasha. And unfortunately, because of like that one girl who was revealed or shown off in Falcon and Winter Soldier, pretty much like giving her like the false like well, it's not really false, but it's also kind of like indirect messages to her about like who is responsible for Natasha's death. Where we need to see like how that gets resolved, because as far as we understand, no, she's out to get Clint at this point.
I mean, is that Clint's fault?
It's not like his fault directly, but like who like out of like the three like beings that were there when it happened, Clint, Natasha, and Red Skull Ghost Dude, like it's gonna be hard to really figure out like by eyewitnesses alone, like if this is like,
I would blame Thanos.
this is also true. I'd blame Thanos as well. I don't know. I'm not sure if you noticed it, but there's a like an underlying. Oh, hold on, give me a second.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm hearing like a slight buzz somewhere. I was like, what? Yeah, they're like, I'm not sure if it's happening like outside, so I have to close my windows, or something inside the house, so I need to close the door. I'll just do one or the other and see how that plays out. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you already picked up on it, but like there's a bit of propaganda about Thanos being right that just kind of like that gets like sprinkled in here and there.
I know they're like Thanos was right in the show. I'm just like, bruh.
I mean, you're gonna get people like that, and to be fair, like Clinton was also kind of directly involved in like the sequences that happened like after Thanos too. So
true, but for Clinton, that was more of why did my family have to go, but all of these people who did such horrible things get to stay.
Yeah. So it's really rough, and I really hope that it's one of those things where it's at least he finds himself in a good like mindset things by the end of it. I mean, we wrapped up on episode 4, so there's technically like only 2 more episodes left already, and like it's crazy that they have like these seasons all compact in just a few episodes, because every single one of them is like filled with stuff, and I just kind of wanted to keep it going, almost like a 24 episode like anime season, but it's definitely not that.
No, it's not that.
Yeah. What would you say so far is like your favorite like of these like short episode
Of the series
seasons?
that came out on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
That's a hard one.
I would it's oh my god, it is really tough.
Like that's actually like a really tough question.
It's a really tough question. I think I'd still give it to like WandaVision.
WandaVision was really good.
It had so much like air of mystery that like is so alluring, especially like as you watch the episode, you're like, what is happening? Like why
That had a lot of I mean, it had pretty much everything. It had the mystery, it had really good comedy, it had a lot of good stuff about it.
Mm-hmm. And then like somewhere in between, it's like a tie between like Falcon Winter Soldier and also Loki.
Loki was really good.
Yeah, I really liked Loki and where that was going. I think mainly because Loki as a character, we're talking about like Avengers 1 Loki walking out and having an entire character change to himself to fit like the Loki by the end of like Ragnarok.
Yeah, the Loki that we know.
Mm-hmm. But I also just like Falcon and Winter Soldier because it is just like it is the direct results of like how the world is dealing with like post Thanos,
and so many great memes came from it.
Mm-hmm.
He's out of line, but he's right.
He's out of line, but he's right. But what were they called? The Dura Milaje?
Yeah, the Dura Milaje, the like the Wakandan Royal Guard.
My God, they were like my favorite bit. Like in the fight scene just within that apartment.
They're not like, oh, you ever like, they're not even super soldiers.
They're not even super soldiers. You just see this dude.
It just destroyed him. They're not even super soldiers.
He just got the serum too. But yeah, it's
He's gonna become U.S. That's what he's gonna become, U.S. agent.
yeah. But yeah, yeah, it's kind of a time between that and Loki. I can't really decide on that one, but Hawkeye in the midst of
good.
yeah, it's getting pretty good. If I had to rate it like right now, it'd still be sitting kind of on the bottom for now until like I see the end, because like I still like all of the shows are really really good, and no matter where I rank them, they're still really really good. I just have like that preference over like the lore and mystery of WandaVision, and I love the dynamics of like Falcon Winter Soldier, and I just love the growth in Loki, and but I also like really love Family Matters, Clint Barton trying to like save Christmas for his family.
Trying to save Christmas.
Oh my god. But I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about in regards to Hawkeye until we can like see the next episode or so. Actually, that noise is coming out from in the back. I'm gonna go ahead and close the window. To the window. To the wall.
Wow.
It's funny because I could totally hear it from the headphones from way over here.
Wow.
Wow. What else do we want to talk about actually in the next topic? I only put down like Game Awards, but of course Halo is like a big thing for sure.
I was gonna say that is a kind of a huge thing.
It's kind of a huge thing. I played the campaign for a couple hours like on opening night. I just stumbled into like the open world and had to stop there because I was like, okay, this is like by the end of the stream time. But I do want to jump back into this campaign later on, for sure.
Yeah, I really enjoy it.
So, Mark, you had said that off stream that you actually finished through the campaign finally. And
I finished this morning.
Is there any, I guess like anything different from like your first impressions like walking into it to like how it is now as far as the campaign?
I would say that there's some things that it's definitely being put to where that I can definitely see what they mean when they say that this is going to be the setup for the next 10 years of Halo, because it feels like they're like, there's some information missing out to where they're going to add DLC. Like, they're going to add more campaign.
Okay.
To explain everything that hasn't been explained.
Oh, okay. Like
there's still a lot of mystery like around the ring.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And there's like a lot of the expanded universe ties into Infinite.
Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense because I know that the main baddie that was announced like in the beginning of the game kind of is someone who was linked into Halo Wars 2.
That's something else I imagine I think they might do. Could you imagine? Like they could very well link in Halo Wars 2 with Infinite.
Mm-hmm. But I know that there's a bunch of other outside works that they can link into, so the extent of Halo knowledge that I know of is just simply like through the games, like mainly the first person shooter games lineup, and that just be like the first trilogy, of course, like the in between Reach, ODST. 4 and 5 are a little like foggy with me as far as the story, and that's kind of understandable. I haven't played 4 in a while, and like I'm still kind of like sitting in like Halo 5's campaign, but I understand that like that campaign in the story and how it's just generally set up is something that not a lot of people liked. So I think there was like a bit of retconning like to be done. Or at least
they do explain what happened in between 5 and Infinite somewhat.
Okay. This is something that I should probably just find out about for myself, because the only thing I know is that like Cortana goes crazy in 5 simply because like she's near the end of her life cycle as an AI, and it's one of those things where like she should have been shut down at a certain point, but like that was already announced in like Halo 4's timeline that she was already like on the verge.
Yeah,
But
Lamp and Six.
and but of course they have to deal with the Forerunners, and they have to deal with the Prometheans or whatever, and the big baddie dude. And I totally forgot like that rest
The
of the story.
Didact.
Yes, the Didact. But
And this, of course, is all about the Banished.
and yeah, this is about the Banished. But from what I understand, the Banished are just kind of like a third party, like one, like a branch that like split off from the Covenant. Is that right?
Yep, they are branches that split off from the Covenant. They're more heavily, I mean, like Atriox, of course, being a brute. You know, he's a bigger guy,
Yeah.
and he is and for a brute, he's actually very intelligent.
I'm trying to remember like I guess I haven't really heard too much like from him. I just heard from the underlings for the most part.
They also seem pretty intelligent,
In their own way, yeah.
at least for, of course, the main, which is I knew his name like a second ago,
Hmm.
but you know who I'm talking about.
Do I? We're talking about another like individual who isn't a brute.
No, he is a brute.
Huh.
You know, main brute you've seen like in literally all the advertisements.
Oh, not Atriox, right? It's
I think like the Eurydish, I believe.
hmm.
I think his name is something like Eurydish, something like that.
Is it Erisham?
Erishim, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know why my brain said Eurydish.
They got some really interesting names, but I do remember Erisham because that was the most recent like name that dropped during the like my campaign run.
There's a whole lot. I mean, like I can tell. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm just saying there's
Okay.
a lot going on, and like a lot of the Spartans, like you find the abilities from.
They all did.
A lot of them are expanded universe Spartans.
Oh, really? Is it one of those things where they'll drop a name, but then they won't touch on it? Anyone who knows those names prior to that will know, but anyone walking into the game will just be like, "Oh, that's a name." Okay.
Yeah, but if you like look at it, actually, it's like they are. The audio logs do give you a lot of information.
Wow. Okay. I like that
Like,
approach.
oh yeah, like I'm just super curious about what's happened to a lot of the characters that we knew.
Hmm.
Like, because so much has happened.
Okay.
It's like you already saw the opening scene.
Hmm.
Infinity's gone, bro.
Yeah, Affinity's it's yeah. Some like even like knowing only very limited knowledge, like the Infinity was like kind of the biggest thing for humanity as far as traversal, and that's gone.
Dude, I didn't think they'd go that far. I didn't think they would say, "Yo, the Infinity's gone." I'd be like, "I'm sorry, you what? I'm sorry, you what? When?"
I like how Chief is just kind of taking it in somewhat strides. I think he's more like focused in on like the goal to save humanity as much as they can, but he's not wallowing, or at least not like right now, wallowing in what has happened. I think that he really is kind of like humanity's savior in the sense that like he knows what he needs to do, even if things go south.
And plus, I mean, like for what we know, the Spartans from Blue Team and Osiris
Yeah, what happened to
and
them?
Palmer, like they haven't been seen in this game, so I imagine we might find out more about them in the DLC.
Okay. I think that's a little fine bit of information that I need to figure out like by the end of Halo 5 just to see like
Yeah.
where did they last displace themselves?
I mean, as far as I'm aware, I think they were on some missions in the expanded universe, but like with the fight against Cortana. But other than that, like I'm not exactly sure. I do know that another character that we really, because the audio logs give somewhat of a thing, but I still need to find all of them. Like
okay.
I don't like we need to figure out what happened to Lasky.
Okay.
Captain Lasky, you know, he's very very important to the UNSC.
He's with the Infinity. You know, the Infinity that got.
No, like he made it out. Like Chief and the other Spartans, like they pretty much did make sure that he got to a lifeboat.
Lifeboat.
Like like the like you remember the ship that you got on in Halo Combat Evolved to get out of there.
I think so. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like that's essentially what he got out in to get onto the ring.
Okay. Yeah, it's so weird when you still think about it. Obviously, like when you play in the early Halo games, you find out that the Halo it's a constructed weapon to wipe out the Flood indirectly. And I the fact is that like despite all that, like the ecosystem like on the Halo itself is so like well I don't know if I can say diverse, but it is definitely plentiful in life.
Very Earth-like.
And so the fact is like these rings were constructed like that, but they also had a function specifically to wipe out all like living organisms so they can like literally like deprive all nutrition for the Flood so they would like die out is another thing. But like I'm also like not even unsure where the Flood originally came from.
As far as we know, they're a parasite.
They're just a parasite, the spores, and then you have like Gravemind and stuff like that. I've listened. I've listened.
Oh yeah, like High Charity, and all of that.
Mm-hmm. What happens to Gravemind, by the way?
As far as I'm aware, I'm pretty sure Gravemind and High Charity were killed when they used the Halo rings in Halo 3.
This ring will make us brothers, Halo 3. Oh.
At the end, the Flood are helping you, and then
they were.
End, it's like,
they were, but then like, what happened afterwards? Didn't they turn on you like as you activated it?
Yeah, but like they didn't exactly get to do anything because we kind of won.
It's true.
Because we were able to get the ring to target the Flood. I believe that's how it went.
Like target the Flood directly?
I think it's been a while, so I can't remember.
Okay.
I know it was something similar to that. I think.
Okay. Yeah, that there's a lot to Halo as far as like.
Oh yeah, like it's actually a really interesting story when you get down to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, don't forget there's Halo. There's also Star Wars Visions had a Halo thing, which was Halo Legends.
Oh,
I see what you mean. Legends. Halo Legends was the they did a couple of anime shorts for Halo.
I do remember that. It was not too much detail,
but it was pretty cool to see.
Well, I guess that is part of the course of things as kind of an expanded universe of just showing all these different things.
Like I think a lot of the Spartans that we find in the game were in the books.
The books,
like one of the most recent books being Shadows of Reach, where Chief and a couple of them went back to Reach to go back to the Oni base that you were in Halo Reach, because turns out there's still something there at Castle Base.
Oh wow, okay.
So we went to retrieve it before Cortana or the Banished could get it.
I see. Shouts to Tasty in the chat. He said, "Yo, what up, man? How's it going?" We were just talking about Halo. We were also talking about Hawkeye for a little bit afterward or beforehand. But yeah, Halo's pretty immense from what you're telling me, as far as just like all the different works. Like there's books. You read them?
Yeah, there's a bunch of books.
Oh my god.
There's actually a bunch of Halo books.
Oh, it'd be cool if they could like really. I mean, they're already working on it, like more tie-ins and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I know that the campaign right now is just single player.
Co-op is in development.
Okay. I kind of wanted to talk about this. Someone, like one of the reviewers, it was I think specifically it was Jeff Gersman, talked about like reviewing a $60 game, but specifically the campaign, and everything else is free or it's in the works. That I know that's an entirely different topic to like bring up, but it is interesting that we're getting or we have been in a period where we are paying for games that like have a price tag already in place, usually a full like game price tag, but they're not actually complete.
They're not quite ready yet.
I know with Halo they weren't really that ready yet for to release that game day one. Understandably, you see it now and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But even now, like they just finished the campaign, and they still have like a lot of other works they want to work on. I guess like my opinion kind of just stands, kind of similar to Phil's, but it's just saying that, you know, if for as much as you get like enjoyment out of that game, like I think it's worth it, even if that sale goes down in price like at some point later on. It's just simply about like the enjoyment of it, and just also I guess the fact is that they placed those price tags there for a reason, and that was just like way back when they just needed to put a price tag just to consider all aspects like of that game and how they can properly like reimburse like everyone who was developing on that game way back. So there's a bunch of other things to consider when you look at like the price tag of a game these days. um it just gets a little bit more complicated when you have other things such as the free multiplayer, but then also like additive like additional add-ons later on that I assume is going to come in free after being like purchasing the game, such as like the co-op and what there's another one, Forge. Yeah.
Yeah, Forge and co-op.
Mm-hmm. Want popularity? I sure do, just not right now. Sorry, that was someone in the chat.
Single milfs in my area.
Single males in my area.
Single milfs in my area.
Milfs.
Single milfs in my area.
Oh no. It's a problem. Get
out here. Have you ever seen that one meme where it's a dude in the back of the van? He says, "So it turns out there aren't any single milfs in my area." He's in the back of a van, like, you know, when you get kidnapped.
Oh my god. Damn. All these chances, all these opportunities. Turns out.
Hey.
Yeah, I definitely need to jump into more of the campaign for Infinite, because it's like it's so interesting. Like once you get into like the open area aspect, you like it's an entirely different feeling the moment you step out, and
feels open.
You're still in the middle of that mission, and there's still like the whole base that you need to like just liberate real quick before like your main dude Echo can like land, right? But like even then, like I already got that scope of like, oh, this is bigger. This is already bigger. Like,
and you will learn his name by the end of the game.
Okay, cool. Because aside from my own experience, I was watching a stream Maximilian dude last night while he was playing through Halo. He was going through like the first couple of missions, and he was at a point where he was just out in the open area, right? But he still needed to liberate like the base. But in the midst of his stream, he had a couple of other of his friends coming in to visit, so he had to set up everything for that. So he just sat Chief like on the stairway in like the first like building structure, and just sat him there without pausing or anything, as like I believe like maybe 12 minutes have like went by as he was just setting up audio stuff. People were coming in. He was arranging the seats.
Please tell me a bunch of bandits just came in and kicked his ass.
That's the thing. No one went for him. Like there were still dudes like across, like, but no one came after him. No one shot anything. Chief was just chilling there, checking out his gun for like 12 minutes.
Did like literally none of them look his direction?
Like he was kind of sitting in a position where no one would look at him. No one could see him, so therefore the AI would not fire at him. So he just stood there looking straight like at this ramp up to the top of the building, and he just kind of stood there. And I mean, granted, that's just part of the AI thing. They like, if it was live stuff, then they would have just went after him. But it's the fact that like this is an open world where you can really just stand in position. Nothing will change over the course of like minutes, hours, and it's fine. So
He just stood there menacingly.
I also experienced like that feeling of open worldness too. Just simply the freedom for me to like run around first foremost, and when I'm down on health, I would just take cover just like at the top of the hill and just kind of sit there, recharge, and then I just go and explore real quick and just take out as many dudes as I needed to. It wasn't like challenging or anything. I was just saying that like you do now have like a much more freedom of choice in how you engage combat immediately just walking out.
Grapple hook.
Grapple hook is also a big thing I need to like really pick up on, especially when it comes to
I'm
like
Spider-Manning my way across the entire map.
that's also like a really fun thing too. I haven't like right now, and it's at the beginning of the game, right? Like I'm still not using those Spartan cores or anything until I figure out like what are my other options for like cool like upgrades, because right now like
Oh no, use those Spartan cores and that grappling hook.
that's what I'm starting to see. Like I have to like scan what the other options are, but like the first couple options are like okay, they're all right, but like
From what I've heard, the other abilities they feel a lot more useful on the harder difficulties.
oh really, like specifically the harder difficulties.
Yeah, from what I've heard. But if you're on normal like I am, grappling hook will get you through.
That's what I'm saying
Unless,
is
unless you're going against unless you're going against a boss that cloaks, then you might want your threat sensor.
oh yeah, wait, isn't the threat sensor like at least like base level threat sensor like already picked up?
No, you find it on the Spartan.
Oh, okay, got you. So it's something later on, but at the very least, before you face like, and I know which spots you're talking about, just because like previews have shown that. But
Well, you get him, and you get another one. There's two of them.
oh no, oh no, not two.
There's two.
Not
There's
two
two
for.
fights like that.
Oh
Like
no.
there's one at the beginning. There's one early, and there's one later on.
Oh no, dude. Because listen, like one thing is cloaking devices. The other thing is like a one surefire like kill on chief. I don't like either of those.
I don't even want to imagine the harder one on fucking legendary. You kidding me? Fuck that.
Legendary. My God, our friend Gabe is currently going to be experiencing that too. I am actually surprised that he decided to go for the legendary difficulty. I would expect myself to go on heroic, but I decided to go on normal on this one just so I could just enjoy pacing as freely as I'd like to.
That's what I'm saying. Normal first to enjoy the story, and then go for achievements later.
And that could be like anyone's approach. I just know that like if you feel like you're base enough that you can try out the hard difficulties like up front. But yeah, I decided to go normal on this one. I guess normal as well as on campaign for Guardians. I think that was kind of agreed on too. But yeah, I gotta get to that. I just need to like I gotta finish Blaster Master 03. I think I could finish that tonight. But just would probably take a little bit of overtime as well. And then I could probably like do Infinite's campaign, but I also kind of want to get started on Tales of Vesperia now. So
yeah, you're still trying to go through all of the Tales series.
asterisk all the Tales series that I can play right now.
Some of the Tales series
through traditional means, or like no hardcore research means. Like I'm not out here to look for like a PlayStation 3. I will say though, like if PlayStation decides to go forward with their subscription-based service that allows for previous games like PlayStation 3, 2, 1, and they just so happen to include one of the Tales games there, then that becomes like open for possibility. So here's hoping for that. Just simply experiencing those games, because that's just one of those instances where like the whole idea of just game preservation, but also the fact of just accessibility of a game, like an older game, has been brought into question. I mean, of course, like we have like I guess more recent examples. Like I actually, wait, wasn't Titanfall gonna be one of those? Titanfall 1, where because that's just a multiplayer game, but they're pretty much going to shut down Titanfall 1
Oh, shutting down Titanfall 1 servers.
I think so.
It was a good life.
Yeah, so I guess that's kind of a weird one because it's multiplayer only. So without that, then the game is super dead.
Actually, it's legitimately dead.
Yeah, but then of course there's classic examples such as like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, where unless you have the original like Dreamcast, PlayStation, or even have like, well, I guess more any physical disc, because I think even the digital ones just stopped working too. You're fucked.
The old one's cool, like physically even play online.
Well, yeah, I guess there's like things like Fightcade and everything like that where they do provide that service to play online, but as far as like the legality of just like having the game and playing at least locally with people,
The fact that you can still play online on the Genesis is incredible.
But yeah, so that's just my personal experience with like there's a game franchise that like I want to get into, but like a lot of the games previously are not really accessible to me. In this case, it would just be like, what's it called, Tales of Celia. I hear that's one of the better ones, but like 1 and 2, yeah, it's a 13 and 13-2 situation, but on PlayStation 3, where I just don't have access to those, and I guess they're available digitally if you just so happen to have a PlayStation 3. I just don't.
And you know, Sony is not a very good company when it comes to backwards compatibility.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, if PlayStation Game Pass does happen to be a thing, that'd be great. Honestly. But we'll see if they want to follow through with that. It seems like they were still gung ho with taking down PlayStation 3 and PSP like stores, but people like were outraged, so they finally backed away from that. But it still feels like they'd still be willing if it weren't for the community, and I'm not sure if they want to change their entire approach on that entirely, or just press the delete button hold off the delete button for later. That's what it seems like. But we'll see. But in any case, yeah, Tales of Vesperia is my next thing I'm going to be focusing on, and I just don't know like where I can where I can fit that. Like, obviously, like doing these JRPGs as a kind of a pseudo marathon is kind of already a trip by itself, and to pick up other games like along the way, obviously, like an indie game such as like Blaster Master 03 is one thing, but entire full campaign like Halo Infinite, we'll see. We'll see. Because I am real. It's one of those things where, like, if I'm dead, like, if I'm really, really curious about something, I should just go for it. So, yeah, I might just go forward with that. Or it'd be kind of cool to do co op that way, too. So, we'll see.
Chelsea.
Chungo Boy 10 is now following. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Love that username. But yeah. Oh yeah, I really talked about Tales of Symphonia's experience. All I can really say, that's a great game. Some mechanics did not age well, and that's understandable. But otherwise, it's a great game. Although I will say that GameCube's still superior. It does have 60 frames per second. Steam doesn't. Also, why though? Why?
How does a GameCube get 60 frames per second?
Because GameCube's beast. It was way ahead of its time.
How the fuck?
But it's also just really good. Like, I don't know what. Well, because Symphonia was a GameCube exclusive, from what I understood, and then it was later released on Steam. But I don't know why. But for some reason, like, Steam version doesn't support 60 frames. I tried looking through like a Reddit thread about like how that was and how that came to be, but I really couldn't find any like physical like evidence on why that was. I just know that like there's a bunch of secrets, not just like in the game's like development, but also just in the lore in general, on like other unlockable things that just are not like accessible easily. You just have to go through the community, and they'll definitely let you know about that.
Gotcha.
They see that said like, that was a sick follow alert. Did you make that? Kind of, yeah. I just found the right resources for it and did like the proper recordings for them. I literally had to go through Pokemon Home and just so happened to access like my Pokedex entry for Gigantamax Pikachu, and they would just P P, and they find the GIF of Gigantamax Pikachu, just sync those up together for an alert through Streamlabs, and you're good. P P. Anyway, I love Gigantamax Pikachu. Don't tempt me with a plush. Don't tempt me with a plush.
It's simple, but it works.
It's effective. It's just giving you the notifications of a follow alert for sure. T says I literally laughed. Yeah, it's a good one. I really like that one. What else was I going to say? But yeah, again, as far as Symphonia, 100% recommend that one for sure. And I don't believe like there's any like huge requirements on PC, so I mean like when it's on sale for like $5 again, totally get it. Or not. It's totally worth it no matter what. Let's see. I didn't really add anything else except for like the Game Awards. It would have been so cool. Like honestly, I probably would have streamed the Game Awards as well, but it was also
You're very late.
Yeah, I was very late for it because out of the entirety of like the past couple like months of working, September and this month are the only months that I'm actually just physically in the office instead of working remotely. And that's just because like we all take turns just handling like physical documents there. So by the time that I got out, and by the time I got home, and by the time I finished eating after getting home, it was probably around like 7 or 8, probably 8, I think. So
yeah, meaning it had already been meaning if it's you got there around 8,
yeah,
and it started at like
5 or
7,
5 my time.
7 or 8 my time.
So I know that like also time frame wise, it was like a little bit over 2 hours before I actually jumped in.
So yeah, it had been a while.
Yeah, I did catch up like after the fact. Like that very same night, I decided to like rewatch the other 2 hours. So I would say overall, the Game Awards is a pretty decent like 7 out of 10.
It was a good one.
It was a good one. The biggest reason why it doesn't go like for 9 or higher is simply because Nintendo wasn't there. Well, not like actively. They were there. They were there to accept that Metroid like win. I appreciate that, but like as far as other games, that was not even a thing.
No. Star Wars Eclipse looks hella interesting.
Yes. We need to know more about that because that trailer was sick. Like
that was an incredible trailer.
That was just more of a movie trailer, really.
And it's made by the same company, but made, like Phil said, what are the games they made? Detroit Become Human.
Oh, yeah. Also, Heavy Rain, is that one of them?
I think so. I was like, as long as I can actually play the game and it's not just an interactive movie.
It kind of seems like it might be like that. We'll see.
Because I mean, it's cool if it's an interactive movie. Okay, cool. But I heavily prefer if I can actually play the game.
Understood. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. If you told me, Tasty, do you have another account? But instead of Tasty, it's Playsty93. Thank you for the follow. You just realized I'm not following you on my phone. I have like 2 accounts because I couldn't remember my password. So I just want to see the alert again. Thank you.
Perfectly fair.
Perfectly fair. But yeah, like I think if I found out that like Star Wars like Fallen Order was a Telltale game like that, then I wouldn't probably play that.
If you heard it's really good, do you think you'd at least give it a chance?
Well then again, I heard that like Wolf Among Us was also really good. That's Telltale's, but I never really got to finish that game. Yeah, I guess I wasn't that interested. Like I was definitely in it for like Walking Dead, like the first like iteration of that for Telltale, and I just never really followed through with the second one that featured Clementine only, and then I guess the one after that, and I guess the one after that. Like I love a really good story. I think I personally would just prefer to like play through like fully engaged like with the characters.
Yeah,
I know that
it's
Guardians. Oh, go
like
ahead.
you'd rather be it's like a show you want to watch, but when it's a game, you want to play the game.
Yeah, that's kind of where my mindset is. Like in between, that's kind of cool, but like I would just want to like be able to like fully engage in the environments and everything. Like for example, I know that Guardians of the Galaxy had like a Telltale game, but between that and the more recent release Guardians of the Galaxy, I probably prefer the latter.
Yeah, I heard the ladder's really fucking good.
Yeah, it won a couple like well, it won that award right for the
Best narrative.
best narrative. So I was like, damn,
Some
dude.
people were mad about that. I was like, if it's a good game, it's a good game.
Nah, they're just salty because their other game didn't win. Wait,
Pretty much.
wait, what were the other games actually?
I forget.
uh, I could probably, if I had to like name from top of my head, I'm pretty sure one of them was just a Deathloop, and then the other like story heavy game. Maybe It Takes Two might have been one. Which by the way,
It Takes Two is taking it home, bro.
they took the entire thing and they won Game of the Year, which says a lot
Good for them.
for like a cooperative exclusive like type of game. It's
Yeah, I
crazy.
say good for them.
That's really good. Especially for the guy who said fuck the Oscars. So funny. Oh, how that's aged.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Tasty was saying I'm interested in the Star Wars Quantic Dream game.
Yeah, that Star Wars Eclipse, that looks really good.
Mm-hmm. I'm really curious as to like the visuals, right? And
Well,
two,
it's gonna be a High Republic game, so it's the new era.
mm,
The era that's like it's not Old Republic old, but it's also not the prequel new.
so where's our Star Wars timeline fit in all that?
Think about this. Think about this. Like you know the Old Republic. The Old Republic is there's the BioWare game and everything, and they've incorporated some elements of the Old Republic into the modern canon, but so far we're still waiting on that. And there's the prequels, there's there's the originals, and then there's the new sequels. But the High Republic is basically where the Republic was at its peak. Like this was when the Republic was at its strongest.
Mm.
And this was before, this is before the events of Qui-Gon Jinn and all of them like, in the Phantom Menace. This is around, like Yoda's still around, but of course Yoda's like 1,000 years old. So
Okay, so you're saying AD?
It's basically imagine this. Imagine like let's say the Old Republic is 100 and the prequels are 0. This would be like 50.
Okay. I think I piece that there. Tasty's saying, yeah, it's like 100 years before episode 1 about, I think.
Correct. I believe so.
Okay. That gives me an idea. I mean, yeah. The problem is that, like, I think about Star Wars, and of course I'm going to think about, like the original trilogy, and then I think about the prequels, and then, of course, like, our current trilogy. So, but then there's, like, there's a bunch of expanded stuff in that universe, just like how Halo has like its own expanded lore and everything.
And then Disney Thanos snapped it. I'm not wrong.
Why are you booing me? I'm right.
It's like the Old Republic. That's what people want to see, is because that's back when there were a lot more Sith and a lot more Jedi.
There was a lot more Sith, a lot more Jedi.
No, I'm talking. That's back when the Sith didn't have the rule of 2.
There's a rule of 2.
Yeah, in the Sith way, there's like Darth Bane established the rule of 2, to where there would only be 2. There'd be a master and an apprentice. The apprentice would have to become so strong that they could take down their master, and that cycle would continue.
Damn.
So basically, you'd get one super powerful Sith Lord and a Sith apprentice that would eventually become even stronger than their master.
Okay. So when you mean like rule of two, it's like a literal like within at
Two.
least literal like there's only like two Sith. One
There's
strong.
only a there's only a Dark Lord and an apprentice.
Okay. And anyone else who's like showing up there is literally someone who's not registered.
Basically, like the main person who did that was Darth Sidious. He was the one who was like having a bunch of different ones.
Yikes. Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
But yeah, the rule of two was established by Darth Bane, and I mean, like the Sith can't win at all due to that. In the
Just
sense
the
of
power
like,
of numbers.
yes, because the Sith would never win against the Jedi because they're so power hungry and they're so greedy that they would just knock each other down constantly. So like they're eating away at themselves from within while also being pushed back by the Jedi. So it was kind of just they kind of weren't gonna win at all.
You'd think that they'd have some their own level of council too, but I guess if power like literally like blinds them from any type of rational thinking on a, you know, two types of ideals pushing against each other, then I guess they really were destined to just go out.
Then there's the Dark Jedi and the Light Sith. The Light Sith were all pretty much wiped out by Darth Bane.
Damn. He's like, nah, we're not having that. It has to be two.
He said, no,
Two.
no. Hey.
What part two do you?
You can't learn the light side of the Force. You can't be a nice guy and be a Sith.
There's only two. There can only exist two.
You can either be a dickhead or you can be a Jedi.
You can either have dark hair or dark brown hair. That's it.
Garen set. But yeah, like the High Republic thing looks cool. I like the Eclipse game. I definitely want to see where it goes.
Me too. Especially like how they opened that up. It's just like, damn, these drums. And
then, I know I wasn't even sure what I was looking at right there.
I know.
Like, what is this?
I was like, what is this Hellblade? No, it's not.
I can see why you'd think it was Hellblade, though.
Yeah, I know. Speaking of which, Hellblade 2 looked crazy.
That looks fucking nuts. Everyone was saying Attack on Titan?
I mean, yeah.
Dude, I was dying. I was fucking dying in the chat. Not to that. You wanna know what I was dying to? There's just one guy, I forget what team he was on. The dude's hairstyle, it was to where he had the widow's peak.
Okay.
Literally, entire chat, Vegeta. King Vegeta. It's like everyone. Dude, I pointed that out. My friends in the chat, we were just wheezing. They're like,
Vegeta, Prince of all Saiyans.
I was like, y'all up there. My friends are like, these guys are so fucking mean.
Vegetable Prince.
Like Vegeta. I'm like, this poor guy.
There was a dude who mocapped that.
Poor guy.
Yeah, decent life, unaware of Dragon Ball references.
Man's hair looks one way on Game Awards. He's now labeled Vegeta hair.
He's now labeled Prince of all Saiyans.
Honestly, it's kind of a compliment.
Man, dude. So I don't know if we want to get into that topic. Now we're kind of like going into that, but I would say that yeah, as far as reveals, I was like super impressed with just Hellblade 2's presentation. Again, really saddened by Nintendo not really showing much of anything new. Happy about all the winners as well. Tales of Rise received its award for the best RPG. I was like, all right, that's pretty neat. So I'm looking forward to.
I voted for Scarlet Nexus on that one.
Oh yeah, I think I voted for Tales of Rise, but otherwise I would have went with Scarlet Nexus immediately after. Man, dude, I hope I see more of Scarlet Nexus in the future.
Hopefully.
We got some DLC, but it's definitely just like some add-on things that you definitely didn't need.
Add-ons. It's nothing like story-based.
Nothing real story-based. They do have like character interactions, which I'm there for, but like other than that, there's nothing like progressional or anything.
Pretty much.
Which I think it's fair because like I think it is a very strongly character-driven game anyway, so I think it works out that way.
I think they're saving anything for either big expansions or for a sequel.
Yeah, hopefully maybe just the sequel. I think Bandai Namco's like really struck gold with like whoever was in charge of like following through with that concept and just like new things happening, like just in general. I think Bandai Namco is like doing pretty well for themselves, and of course their respective like teams are as well.
Oh, without a doubt.
Casey's like, I gotta start getting ready for my stream, but I enjoyed listening while I was eating, or yeah, editing. All right. Well,
Have a good one, man.
Take it easy, and hoping they have a really good rest of your stream as well. But was there anything else I wanted to say? Oh yeah, the orchestral piece, like each time that they announce the game of the year, is always so great to hear. Especially Metroid, dude. That was such a pleasant thing to hear. I did not expect that, but it was such
I was
a
like,
nice
oh
thing.
look, an orchestra.
Yeah, oh look, an orchestra. They were going in on that Metroid theme. My God, I was like, this is what I lived for.
This is why I'm here.
And then Metroid didn't win Game of the Year. And I was like, man.
It did win an award, though.
That's understandable, though. It did, yeah, it definitely did win awards. So I'm happy about that, though. It's just kind of been a weird case of this year, because games came out for sure this year. Obviously, you know, Halo Infinite, Forza Horizon 5, again, Metroid, It Takes Two. Literally every single one on that list. And even on other categories as well. But it did feel like kind of a mesh of like different games too. They wouldn't have expected otherwise. Different genres this time, which is nice, but it's also kind of like strange too. So I'm thinking that next year's gonna be like really different. I think you're gonna see a lot of February games show up on that list of Game of the Year already.
I can already tell you, Infinite's probably gonna be on there.
Yeah. Well, wait, does Infinite still count in that case?
Any game that comes out towards the very tail end of the year usually ends up in next year.
This is true, but I just know that like there was a Player's Choice Award and Halo Infinite.
Yeah, so I think that's for any game.
Okay, all right. In that case, okay. I hope that Halo Infinite shows up then, because this could make it interesting when, you know, you'll probably see like Horizon Zero Dawn or Forbidden West, and then of course there's gonna be Elden Ring, and I think God of War is gonna show up like later too.
Yep.
So it's gonna be like, all right, that's already like 4.
A lot of contenders.
And then I'm still sitting here on my podium for like the sequel to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
This is also true. That is going to be a thing.
It'll come eventually. I just wish we could see more.
One day.
One day, dude. But okay, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about, like on the front of the Game Awards. I guess we should now talk about this heavy topic here.
This is something that it really does need to be talked about.
Okay. So, without further ado, Mark, go ahead. What is it that that just kind of showed up recently this past week?
So I've seen this guy around. I haven't really watched many of his videos, but it has been being covered. This has been covered by a lot of people. This has been covered by some of the biggest YouTubers on the platform. Even PewDiePie covered for this guy.
Oh, okay.
PewDiePie covered for him. So did Moist Critical. So did Joey the Anime Man. So did so many people came out. Philip DeFranco.
Mm-hmm. I was actually
watching.
Watching the video just to get like some news about like exactly what went down.
Yeah, a lot. It's so unfair. Like what happened was, totally not Mark. He is an anime YouTuber. He creates in-depth reviews on the shows that we all know and love, like like One Piece and Dragon Ball, Naruto, like all the shows that we love.
Mm-hmm.
And Toei, whether it be by their own hands or by bots, because you know how bots are, bots really don't differentiate anything.
Mm-hmm.
They copyright struck. At first, it wasn't much. It was like maybe a handful. Then it was within the next few hours, it made like to 20 something. And by the time he woke up the next day, Toei Animation had copyright struck 150 videos.
Okay. All at once.
And Yeah, all at once. And the thing is, the average copyright strike appeal time, or average copyright appeal for a video, is 2 months.
Yes.
So it would take him 30 years to appeal all of those.
Is he not able to do them all at once? I mean, it's still a lot of
Nope.
time, but
You gotta do it one at a time.
one at a time.
One at a fucking time.
That's rough. I like.
And he's got to pay his employees that he works with at their company. He's
Mhm.
like, because he's made a business out of his job, out of YouTube. This is his livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not. It's like, yeah, like he's not uploading like the full movie or anything like on there. He's doing analysis. He's doing review. He's doing drawings, and they're still, and like, the copyright system is very different in Japan, to where in Japan it is essentially, did you ask for permission? No. Okay. Then then it's, you can't, then you're in trouble.
Mm.
But in the United States and other Western countries, that's not the case, because our copyright law is more of, if you've transformed the content, it's technically not the original product anymore, and you're good.
Right. That's kind of like the wave of reaction videos. Essentially,
Yes.
it's just like it's under that like context of just being transformative content, where it's a means of analyzing a video or expressing different takes on it, just something that's just related to like the subject matter, but not actually it by itself.
Yes. And of course, when you take away 150 videos, that it's a lot of hard work down the drain.
Mm.
And that he even mentioned, like, how many of those videos that he's proud of that are just gone.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he, like, people have been giving him so much support, which I think is fantastic. And like Joey said, to go to the man's Patreon and support him, like because he really needs it, really deserves it. And the man actually got choked. Actually got choked up on his video talking about it because of people's generosity.
Mm.
And I think another huge thing to think about in terms of all of it is because YouTube still couldn't do anything to help him. So what he did was, he got a friend who is a native Japanese speaker
Mm-hmm.
to translate a message that he wrote she read it verbally. He wrote a letter to Toei Animation explaining his position and why he thinks this is wrong, and being respectful. I don't think anything he said would be considered offensive in their culture.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it was perfectly fine. And just as a backup, or just as an extra thing, he also had her read a message to Oda, to the creator of One Piece,
Okay.
because this is Toei Animation specifically, and a lot of his videos that got taken down were specifically One Piece and Dragon Ball videos, which Toei makes. Toei makes Dragon Ball. Toei makes One Piece. They make a lot of shows that we love. And so we're going to see if they will respond to Totally Not Mark, see if this man can somehow get all these videos back, because it's very clear that something in YouTube's copyright system globally needs to change. Like, it really does.
That is tough, because we're now, as you were saying earlier, Japan has like its own laws, and that also has to be considered into the YouTube space as well, if it hasn't really been established yet.
He said in his letter to Japan, or like to the Toei copyright department specifically, to their copyright office, like he said specifically, if I could just region lock my videos to where they wouldn't appear in Japan, I would absolutely do it. So that way we would have no problems.
I see.
But the way that YouTube is right now, that is not an option.
They don't do that. That's true.
But he's made it clear he's not trying to steal from them. He's not trying to replace anything. He's just trying to bring the fun to everybody, and he's just trying to get more people interested in their works. And I was like, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I think that the idea of like region locking your videos is an interesting thing. It kind of makes sense now that I think about it, because it's not just a matter of like a split in like laws, but it's also like a split in just language in general. I
Yeah,
mean, there's means for other people who don't understand like the language of a content, like of a video, to understand that there's like generated subtitles or actual like subtitles being placed in the video, but otherwise, uh, without that extra step, you don't know what the content is really. So
yeah, and it's also it's the fact of it's very clear that they weren't like actually looking at the videos because some of the claims were just like a minute or two or even sometimes seconds apart.
hmm.
So it just seems like either bots are just like say like beep 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 like like getting all of the alerts, or they're just like saying like, oh well, this video is like this one, so this one, 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 this one.
Well, I mean, from like previous experience, like that kind of stuff pops up when you show a lot of like said content, and there's nothing like specifically like transformed. It's just like that segment right there that gets picked up. So from what I'm understanding is that it's not just that type of stuff that gets caught, but it's also just simply the video itself, the title itself, anything that just remotely says anything about the matter at hand gets like ticked off. So I
And
don't.
that is that's unacceptable, honestly.
I mean, it reminds me of the time like when myself and Christoph we were talking about Spider-Man Far From Home, and all we did was just sit down and talk about it. All we did
Copyright.
was copyright.
All we did was talk.
Yeah, all we did was just simply talk about like what the movie was like. I mean, I don't know, but it's also freedom of speech too. But we were just, I guess we were talking about our thoughts about the movie. We were talking about sequences of events that happened in the movie, significance of them. But that was just that was like a no at that time. I don't know.
You look,
To this
you,
day, I don't know why, but we were able to like patch it up ourselves, so we're okay there. But I wonder if we'll deal with that with No Way Home when that like finally comes out, or if we even want to talk about it like that.
like, I just think that if that's what it would take, because here's the thing, I think that because I've heard foreigners who live in Japan, like anime YouTubers or whether they just be vloggers, like they have said several times like how copyright law is in Japan. It's very old fashioned.
Mm.
It's very like I said, it's very. Did you ask for permission? No, then you cannot use it. You are in trouble. There is no nuance. There is no in between. And I just feel like that's a very dated. It's a very dated sense of copyright law.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is. I feel like that's heavily where Japan should like, and hopefully this starts something. Hopefully this starts a conversation in Japan about what they need to change in copyright law.
Mm.
Like, because there's a lot of people in Japan that could possibly get the message going.
I think so too. I just don't know if that will really change anything. Not being pessimistic about it, but I wonder if that does change, and if it does, exactly how will that, I mean, maybe from like the surface level, maybe not change as much, but if we could do something that prevents another content creator like this to all of a sudden get struck with 150 videos they've made in the past, that all of a sudden get revisited and just get like ticked for every single instance of like of a copyright thing, that would be great, especially if those users fully understand what they were doing and have done ways to not try to redistribute the works and just simply want to put their expressions out there instead. That's the whole
Because
point.
that's what he's doing. It's like they're legit people on YouTube who upload the entire movies of Broly and any other movie from Dragon Ball or One Piece on here completely, and those videos are still up.
This video is still up.
It's like, and what did he do? He did a deep review and analysis of One Piece and Dragon Ball, to where he's not showing the entire movie. He might show an image or two for context and like details. But God forbid he does that, because then you're getting hit with a copyright claim, bitch.
Would it even count if you drew like stick figures? Like, all right, here's carrot and here's broccoli. Here,
Copyright.
no, he's not even drawing. He just has like a carrot and a broccoli, and he's just like, all right, this is them. This is them fighting, right? This is what happening.
Toei just got a big copyright stamp.
It's like, I see what you're doing there. I see that.
And he said that he's going to stand in solidarity with his position right now, and he's not going to support, as much as he would love to. He's not going to support Toei right now. He's not going to go see Dragon Ball Superhero, and he would like to ask everyone to do the same. And I fully support Totally Not Mark. I fully support what he's doing. I think it's very unfortunate, and I really do have a childhood growing up with Toei Animation. Like, they made a lot of the shows I watched as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I still love Dragon Ball to this day. And I can't not go see it. I just love it too much. And he says he understands if people don't. Mm-hmm. But if anyone else doesn't, I fully understand. Like, I wouldn't take that as an offense of people saying that the movie's bad. I just know that Totally Not Mark has a situation right now, and some people might want to stand by him on that.
Mm-hmm. I think it's ultimately up to like however you are in this like situation. Have you like if you're someone who like totally enjoys this works and doesn't know anything about like what's going on right now, then it's fine. I mean, it is just like entertainment. It is the works like with Toei animation. But if you're also on this new perspective where you understand that like animation as just like a medium has always been there, but all of a sudden new mediums show up about things that further elaborate on like fandom there, and you know that hasn't jived well with like the platform itself, where Toei Animation's like going in on like one channel in particular, or actually just
it's their copyright office. That's what's doing it. It's like nothing else at Toei is doing it other than their copyright office.
Okay, yeah. But in that case, it's like, there has to be like something that individual can do to kind of support both fronts, as far as like, I guess unfortunately that would just simply to make a big movement, and that would just simply to not watch like those types of works.
It's like that's your protest essentially.
Yeah. So.
And like the thing is, I think that when it comes to the copyright system, I think that there is definitely room to say that maybe region locking the videos, so that way we don't have that copyright issue, would be very good for people who do anime content on YouTube. Because if there is no resolving it with Japan's copyright issues, that's the only option that we're left with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way to be fair to your international fans.
I think, I can't help but think that there might be something else there too, because like it'd be so nice and simple if it was just simply a region lock thing. But I think other issues would rise up as a result of that, like just simply the distribution of like the actual works itself coming over to the West, and all of a sudden like you have another platform that kind of talks about that kind of stuff. If Japan kind of keeps to that like same copyright law system, and would even go as far as to make adjustments to still adhere to those old-fashioned like laws, then that might even change like how those works get distributed in the first place. So I can't say.
There's also because he pointed this out, is because Toei actually reached out to him like a while ago to help them promote a tour that they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same breath, the people that asked him to help promote a tour copyright strike 150 of his videos.
But as you were saying, though, that's two different departments at that point, right? There's one that want to promote like that kind of stuff over to the West, but then there's also the copyright like department, right?
Yes, but yes, of course, but that's different. But that's just going to give the company a bad look.
That's true.
And then there's also there's just that, and basically Toei has been known they've been known to be really hard when it comes to copyright.
Yeah.
Like it has been known that way for a while. This is just the most extreme instance we've ever seen of it.
Yeah.
Like I trust me. Like I have when I dabbled in a little bit of YouTube, like I had videos that were copyright struck, specifically by Toei Animation.
Mm.
And I think that, and even Joey the Anime Man, one of the biggest anime YouTubers on the platform, he has 2 copyright strikes on his channel. He had 2 copyright strikes. Can you guess where both of them were from?
They're from
Toei Animation. And they were both regarding One Piece.
Oh my god. At least it's consistent, I guess, but
Yes, it's like here's the thing, it's like to region lock the videos. It's not like it's not like US videos can't be seen in Japan. It could be to where he can just choose to not allow his videos in Japan. Like you can just say to avoid, like you could just say for copyright, like, you know, like there has to be a way to where you can say, like, you know, just a region lock the videos to outside of this specific area.
mm-hmm.
Like, and of course people could say that could be discriminatory, I guess, to say like, oh, well, I just don't like these people here, so I don't want them to see my videos.
Yeah, I guess that could open up a can of worms there too, but
it could, but at the same time, I feel like it's like, so I feel like it could, but at the same time, I feel it's also a good solution for this specific situation.
for this specific situation, yeah.
Unless we actually cause a change in Japan's outdated copyright laws.
Mm-hmm.
Because like a lot of other countries have been adapting to our copyright law, which appears to be a more fair, and at least more fair in terms of free use. Like transformative content, taking an original work and making it different enough to where, yes, I put enough work into this to where, yeah, I give credit to the original content, but I have done my work, and it technically now is a separate work. I'm not trying to steal any money. I am just trying to show what I like, and I'm just trying to promote it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's completely fair. Because if anything, this guy totally not Mark. He is absolutely giving Toei more fans, more money. He is, if anything, he is a promoter for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like they're doing themselves a disservice by treating him like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if it's not Toei as a whole, like, you know, even if it's just their copyright office, I just feel like it's just very distasteful.
Mm-hmm. I guess there's not really much I can add to that, because I mean this kind of sticks a little bit more to our roots too, with like reacting and everything like that. You know, that it is a question of like, you know, posting things that you like is one thing, but also like to make a living out of that, and it's for support of your family and your team, that's another thing too. So the further out you get into that kind of stuff, and then this pops up all of a sudden, causes serious issues, just like within like that like close-knit community there. So
I mean, here's the thing. It's like, it's not like he's pirating and he's making money for his family that way. No, he's a fan. He is doing in-depth analysis on these stories. He is doing drawings. He's doing everything a fan would do, and is sharing it with people, and is being able to make money because a lot of people like what he does, and they go look at the content he looks at, which directly goes back into their pocket. It's not like he's taking any profits from them. The profits are all still going in the exact same way. He is just also benefiting.
he's also kind of redirecting it towards them too.
That's what I'm saying. It's like he's not really doing any damage.
It's this is like a real rough situation. I know that this is a currently developing story, to the point where like just four or so hours ago he's thanking everyone for the support from the past couple of, god, like, I mean, that the whole video about like taking down the videos, his original video is no longer available for viewing right now, but
they copyright struck it.
I have no idea.
Could you, dude? I'd be pissed. I would be pissed.
I mean, at that point, it's no longer a bot that's in the works for that. It's someone.
I'd be like, all right, I'd be going to Japan right now, walking to Toei's office. All right, where's the copyright office? I got a bone to pick with you.
Oh, can you imagine that? Like, all of a sudden, they just got like so many visitors coming in to speak on his behalf.
Ohio.
Man, I don't even know. I'm curious to see how this all plays out, especially since like we're seeing a lot of like representatives here, well, on YouTube space, really.
Some big names, some huge names.
Yeah, and they're actually there to help like promote stuff, just like in their own way. So it's interesting.
Like even Joey the anime man, who knows like he knows like one or two people that are actually in the anime industry.
Mm-hmm.
So like he said, I think he said he would at least try his best to see if he could try to work something out with somebody. Like see if he could try to get a word in at least a tiny bit.
I was gonna say, like, what does that mean though?
I think he's like, because he's actually in Japan, so like that actually,
okay.
like he's and he speaks Japanese.
Okay, well, I mean,
So, like he's actually like, of course, that doesn't mean anything in the sense of, so I mean, yeah, he can do all that. It's like, yes, he can't actually do anything per se, but he can at least he can actually get a message going.
I would say conversation.
He can get started a conversation, and then there, of course, like Totally Not Mark did have his Japanese friend do the interpretation. I listened to the entire message. I highly recommend you do the same. I highly recommend everyone else do the same, because I feel like what he said was very respectful, especially in his letter to Oda. Like he legit said, like, whether do you think that whether like he said he actually gave a thing from One Piece saying like this is one of the things that you taught me.
Mm.
Which I was like, that's very nice. I think that's some people would say maybe it's a little cheesy, but I was like, no, I think
it's fair. I just wonder if Oda himself can do anything at that point, because it's kind of the same thing with what was Hunter's Guild, right? Where like that story cannot continue. Like the original like author can't like expand on that universe, because now all of a sudden like Viz or whoever it is who owns it, and they decided to cancel it.
It was Jump, but here's the thing.
It was Jump, okay.
Here's the thing. There's two people in the industry that have such a huge say that I think that if they stood in support of Totally Not Mark, it would mean a lot.
Okay.
And those two people happen to be two series that he got hit for the most. Oda Sensei and Toriyama Sensei.
So you're saying that if these two decide to speak up about this and outright say that like this is unfair, they ought to do something.
I think that would tell Toei's office that maybe we should revise this.
But then we're also talking about like the original like law in Japan, like in general too. That would also have to change, like from an internal side.
Oh yeah, but I think that it would it would really, really help if Oda does respond positively to them, if he does see it and respond positively.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Oda would, because Oda seems like a genuinely nice guy.
I don't know Oda as a person, but I'm pretty sure, and I would agree with that as well.
Like from what I've seen with Oda, like from what I've like looked in interviews and like what I've heard about the man, he seems like a pretty chill guy.
Mm.
He seems like he's pretty down to earth, pretty wholesome. Like I think that, like in his interview with Toriyama, like he seemed like an excited kid meeting a superhero.
Mm. I was gonna say like Oda married the cosplayers who cosplayed one of his characters.
That's amazing.
He married a fan.
That's great.
And now another fan of his is under fire. So I think Oda would, just based on that, would take that side too. There's just a lot of like legalities behind this one. Something like very well like sewed in to copyright laws that it would take some time to like really resolve this. And I think for now everything we can do is just simply to acknowledge what's going on, and for those who really want to support Totally Not Mark here should do that, but also in their own way spread the word out as far as their own content. in other instances, like maybe even do protests, don't watch the movie, maybe even not even tune in for like any like other like releases,
Yeah, whether they be
manga, whether it be the actual, well, maybe manga if that's kind of like also part of that, but it's also Tony. Tony Animation's kind of there.
It's Toei, not Jump. It's
not
Toei.
Jump. Yeah. So in that case,
but like
not
this
the
would
episodes.
be in cases of like my beloved Dragon Ball or Anaya's beloved One Piece. It could be Digimon, Sailor Moon, any of the works that Toei does, which Toei does such good work, and it's not even the animators or the producers' fault. It is literally all on their copyright office.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is the one department that is giving the company such a bad look right now.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough, but I think people should just kind of align themselves where they want to stand, and we can only hope that change does happen, and for totally not Mark, he could find a solution to all this, and maybe something that could work in the meantime as this kind of develops. So,
and plus, I mean, like it should happen now, because I mean, think about if nothing is done, this could happen to somebody else.
Or rather, things like this have happened before too.
I know, but like I've never seen that many videos get struck down in 24 hours.
This is true, but then again, there's also the case where some people have just got multiple like instances despite that. Maybe not in like that high of a number, which is why it's making
150.
That's what I'm saying. Like I mean, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure there was another instance where like 30 videos just got hit like all of a sudden, and someone's channel literally just went down. I'm pretty sure it was another anime like YouTube like channel too, where like their entire works were like taken down and they immediately got their channel terminated, and it got brought back, but of course that's because there was an entire community backing that, and YouTube had to comply.
Like, it's happened to a few people.
Yeah, so it's just an ongoing thing, and this just happens to be a pretty crazy instance. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just gonna check out like what other people are saying as well. But I guess that's, yeah, I don't have much else to add except for I would just strongly advise people to spread the word out, acknowledge this, and do what they feel comfortable doing to play a part in whether it is supporting, whether just be specifically totally not Mark or just for the sake of other like content creators who do cover these series in their own creative like transformative ways,
like us.
I guess in a way, I would heavily take us out of that like entire equation right now.
Looks to Dragon Ball Super playlist.
I would totally just take us out of that, right? I would totally like, don't even think about us when you're talking about like making the difference here. Do not think about us. Do not think about us.
Justin's like, please spare me.
Just focus on Totally Not Mark and any other person who has done like works recently, especially, and continue to do that. So, I mean, for us, we're just like doing everything as cleanly as possible. But then there's others who decide to take transformative content to another level and unfortunately get this side of it. And I just don't think that's right, especially when they have done the research, they've done the works to make this work out for their stuff. Different. So
it's actually different. It actually does not violate any copyright laws whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. So that's all I can say, like on my own behalf, is just you find your own way to support this, as far as just, you know, for the sake of content creation, for sure.
But absolutely, because this could affect a lot more people.
Yes, including us. So I mean, yeah, that's all I can really say. So
gotta watch out for each other.
Is there anything else you want to bring up, Mark? I know this isn't like a really delightful end to the podcast, but is there anything else you want to add?
Nothing at the moment, I believe.
Okay. So okay, I was just looking at my screen. I was like, am I getting the face buggy thing? Nah, I'm okay. Yeah. All right. I guess without further ado, we'll go ahead and call it. Next time we'll see each other the next following weekend for sure. unless something happens. I know that we're trying to make plans to hang out with friends again, so we'll see how that plays out. But yeah.
Really well.
Yeah. All right. We'll go ahead and call it here. So thank you guys so much for tuning in for another episode of DangIT Prodcast. It's been episode 389. My name is Justin.
Mark.
And thanks for watching. # bye everyone.
Adios.